Welcome to Crypto Explained. I am with the man, the myth, the legend, Dalin Anderson, the brains behind high altitude investing. And I'm super excited to talk to him today because, as I mentioned to him, I have been following him, watching his videos. I think it was like since 2017 or at the latest 2018. And I remember he was one of the very first crypto YouTubers that I ever stumbled upon back in the day. And he's actually the only one that I watched back then who's still actively making content and building his community and still helping folks to this very day. So I'm really excited to have him here. I could say a lot more about him, but we'll save that for the interview. So, Dallin, welcome. Happy
Hey,
to have you.
thanks, man. And by the way, great work on starting a YouTube channel. I tell people all the time, like, hey, start a YouTube channel. Like, it's so fun. It's so fulfilling. Like, crypto is one of the best industries to do it in. You can not only make money for yourself, but you can help a lot of people too at the same time. And, like, yeah, it's a really good industry to be in. So, shout out to starting a YouTube channel, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. I'm quite the newbie in that sense. I think maybe I have 17 or 18 subscribers in my big 2 weeks now that I'm doing it. So I'm honored that you're even having this with me since you've been around many years. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yep, happy to be here, my friend.
Yes, so got a lot of questions. We'll just jump right in and see what we can get to today. So let's start off with. Uh, okay, you learned TA at a very early age, at a time when there were far fewer online resources to do so. So there was no Udemy back then, no educational trading apps, or I mean, not probably not too many communities online, right? So all that didn't exist. So what's your like secret? How did you learn and manage to do all this by yourself?
I just kind of jumped in the deep end. Like, I was just like, well, I want to learn this. I know it's possible. There's people that make money trading and investing in the stock market, and they do a good job and they make a lot of money doing it. And I figured, well, probably has a lot of similar principles. So I kind of started off like learning stock stuff. And there really wasn't a lot of other channels. There was like one YouTube channel. It was called it was called Lumbridge City. Did you ever play RuneScape before, Jordan?
No, I've heard of it, of course. I've never played it myself, and I've never heard of Lumbridge City. So
Yeah, there's this place in RuneScape called Lumbridge City. And so this
okay.
guy had this YouTube channel. It was like the only other crypto YouTube channel at the time. And he had maybe like 1,000 subscribers or something like that. And he was teaching like double bottom patterns. And he had learned this because there's this thing called the Grand Exchange in RuneScape where you can like trade like items in the game for other items. And you can see the charts of like how much those items are worth. And so he was finding these double bottom patterns and he was using technical analysis that you would use like in stocks to buy like a whole bunch of like for example like rune shields or something and then waiting for the double bottom pattern to play out and then selling them later. So he was like making money in the game, not real money, but he was making GP in the game, buying and selling these items in the Grand Exchange. And so he was like really good at that. And then he found crypto and he said, well, all of these crypto charts on Poloniex are like doing the same patterns that I'm seeing in RuneScape on these items in the game. So I kind of found his channel first and he was like the introduction for me into like how to trade. And so I learned a lot from him and I actually he was kind of my first resource, but there really wasn't a lot of other stuff. I had a feeling that a lot of the stuff that applied to stocks would apply to crypto, but I knew I wanted to, and it was kind of like everything was kind of put in place for me, even though there wasn't a lot of knowledge at the time for me to start learning. So just the desire, I feel like really was the most important thing at the start.
Okay, wow. That's really cool. I had no idea that like about the RuneScape and how you could I mean, I'm not going to repeat what you just said, but that's very fascinating. So thanks for
Yeah,
sharing
kind
that.
of crazy.
Yeah, and
Who
like
knew that trading items in a video game would turn to making real money in real life, you know?
Right, and
So,
just the way that he kind of figured this out in like a complete fantasy game with fake money and not it's like game money, and then it
yeah.
actually translated into crypto or like real charts.
Yep.
Cool.
Kind of cool.
Okay, so yeah, so the next question, kind of going along with that, is so let's say someone else was, t today now is in the position that you were back then. So they're kind of like starting from zero or they have, very little knowledge. And, ideally they would be able to budget for like a professional like yourself, having you offer your one-on-one coaching and your VIP service. And you can definitely touch on that now or later on the call. But let's say again, if they're just starting out, maybe they just graduated college, they haven't, whatever the reason is, they don't have a big budget. So, how would you suggest that they kind of go about things on a tight budget? Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say start learning. Like there's a lot more resources online than there used to be. Like there's tons of resources on YouTube, and there's a lot of books out there that you can buy that aren't like, super pricey. But yeah, just start learning and Google images. Like I learned like a lot of the trading patterns that I use on a regular basis, just typing it in on Google Images. Like I was on X back in the day, obviously it was called Twitter, and I was seeing all these other traders that were like professional traders, and they'd show like, oh, here's a falling wedge pattern, or here's a rising wedge pattern. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. So I just type into Google Images falling wedge. And there's like so much free information out there. If you're serious about learning crypto, you don't have to spend a dollar. Obviously, you can cut down that learning like time period significantly by like buying courses. And I did buy a lot of other people's courses. And like I said, I bought books and read
Okay.
books. And so I did invest the profits I was making in the markets by spending it on education through people that had went through the whole process of learning it hands-on like that. But to be honest with you, like there's so much free information that if you don't care how long it takes you to learn it, you could learn it without spending a dollar. Like if you have an internet connection and a computer or an iPhone or an Android device or whatever, like you can learn how to trade and invest for $0. I firmly believe that. You can learn a lot faster if you spend a little bit of money and sidestep a lot of suffering and a lot of things that are going to, be a little bit maybe painful during that process. But yeah, just start learning.
Okay. Yeah, great advice. And I just want to point out real quick to the folks listening that um, I mean, you gave a lot of like my head's spinning now with everything that you just said. But I thought that was really interesting how you kind of mentioned you didn't necessarily have to spend, or maybe you didn't spend anything in the very beginning, but then you said that you reinvested your profits, obviously investing in yourself, and along the way, as you started noticing, as you were making money, you invested some of that into like kind of building your skills, and then, ideally from there, even multiplying your profits based on that knowledge that kind of snowballed from there, if that makes
Yep.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah, so
cool.
take your profits and reinvest it, just like you would a normal business. Treat your trading and your investing like you would a business. If you make profit, keep some for yourself, keep some for taxes, and then reinvest some of it back into learning. And with crypto, you have the opportunity that you can start with like really small amounts and make a lot of profit. So you have the opportunity to learn a lot because you're going to have a pretty big amount of profit to work with and to reinvest.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also related to that question is since you have worked with so many people over the years, especially newbies getting started, or maybe they've even worse than a newbie is someone who's already been trading and just have been doing the complete wrong things. Like my favorite Yoda quote is like, you must unlearn what you've learned, right? So, uh,
Yes.
what is the biggest, between whether they're a complete newbie or maybe they've just been doing the wrong stuff and they kind of just need to start fresh? What is, would you say, the biggest mistake that, you know, that you see?
I would say one of the biggest mistakes people make is they have this idea in their mind that trading is just based on like outward events. Like, oh, if this thing happens in the world, I'm going to be able to use that as like a
Yeah.
factoring thing to make a whole bunch of money. But the truth is that the markets price in news very quickly. For example, the COVID drop in 2020, it dropped when COVID hit. The markets fell when COVID hit, but it only fell during the month of March. 1 month. So the markets priced that in like super quickly. And then there was an entire 2 year period where the markets went straight up while COVID was getting worse, right? And
Right.
everybody was freaking out and the world was ending.
Mhm.
Bitcoin went to 69,000 per coin. So that kind of stuff gets priced in really quickly. People, a bad world event, and I'm not saying that there can't be catalysts that affect the market, but people have a tendency to think that it's going to be really long and dragged out. Like this big bear market's going to come because of COVID. And actually, even with all of the stuff that was going on, the markets went nuts during a global pandemic. So that I'd say that's like a very common misconception that people have. And it's okay that if you come into trading, if you have that mindset, it's okay that you have that mindset as long as you're willing to like crucify it. So,
But what do you mean?
just like don't be attached to it. Like it's okay if you have that
Okay.
belief, don't be hard on yourself, but don't like continually um don't keep believing it. If you look for catalysts in the market, it's okay to understand if there's a market catalyst, but that stuff gets priced in very quickly and don't let it be like your end all be all.
Yeah, man, it's so funny you say that because I can't tell you how many of my friends who are like, let's say maybe not as experienced, they're asking me for my crypto because they know I've been in the market for a while, and they're like, "Oh, did you hear about the tariffs? Oh no, we can't invest now. Like this is horrible. We got to wait till things get better." And I'm just like, by the
Yeah.
time it's safe and you hear in the news of like, "Oh, now it's a good time to invest," and you read that in the headlines, well, that's usually the time that you should be selling. Like that's the
Yep.
opposite of.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
does have a tendency to be a cross correlation. Obviously, there can be a bad news headline and the markets can crash, or a good one and then they can rise. But most of the time, that stuff is priced in before,
Right.
when everybody's scared to invest, it's probably 90% of the time a really good time to invest. And when everybody's excited and they feel like it's safe, you might want to be a little bit more cautious. And if all your friends are waiting to invest, you might want to double down.
Yeah, well put. Yes.
So,
Yes, yes, totally. Man, there's so many things I could. All right, we'll stick to the questions I have for now. All right, so yes, and in a recent video, and you've actually mentioned this over multiple videos, I know how you stress looking at the big picture since we're headed into mass adoption, as you call it, and this is kind of a term maybe some of you might have heard. And I would love to hear, just in your opinion, this is kind of like a future outlook type thing, but because I feel completely the same as you. I do feel like crypto is the future, right? We will be going into like a world where that is mass adopted, but could you describe that? Like, how would that look like in your eyes? Or how do you imagine that?
so the internet bubble happened in the early 90s or the late 90s, right? It started in the early 90s, but then in the late 90s, it really took off. Then in 2003, you had the peak bottom of the internet bubble pop, the crash that happened, right?
Right.
So basically, what happened to the internet after 2003 was it started its mass adoption phase. So new technologies have a tendency to get a lot of excitement, a lot of hype. They have a bubble phase, and then people kind of like your general public gets a little bit hesitant because of bubble crash. But that's when the big institutions and the bigger players, that's when they're really putting their money in. That's when the infrastructure is being built for the adoption of that technology. And if you look at crypto did the exact same thing. So 2020, basically what happened in 2021 and then what happened in 2022 and 2023 was very similar to kind of an internet bubble pop where
Okay.
crypto popped. A lot of general public, like a lot of everyday retail investors, were investing in crypto in 2021. That's when like a lot of the public started investing in it. 2017 was kind of actually like really small in terms of
Yeah.
volume in
Yeah.
comparison to 2021. 2021 was really where your average it was basically a repeat of the internet bubble. So we had a pop, a crypto bubble pop, and that scared your average investor away. You know, the FTX crash and the Luna crash and all that stuff. That scared your average everyday kind of person away from investing in crypto. But now all the prices are down 97% on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of
Mhm.
altcoins are down like 97% from their peaks. And so, what do you think the big institutions are thinking right now? Well, here's this new technology that everybody knows is going to change the world, but the general public is scared to invest because of a bubble pop. It's like the same thing that happened to the internet. After the internet bubble popped, then we got mass adoption. And then it really became a household name. And I firmly believe that is what's coming for crypto is a mass adoption phase where it does become a household name and where everybody does start using it, not just as something they're excited about because it's in a bubble, but as something that they are literally almost forced, for lack of a better word, to use because of it being
Right.
adopted at such an exceedingly fast rate. And right now it's really slow, but I think that's going to pick up. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say, I agree. And I've actually heard, yeah, some folks say who kind of feel the same that the US, it's not like the US dollar is like, you also hear in some kind of like some YouTuber, you hear all kinds of opinions online, but some people, oh, the dollar, US dollar is going away and it's going to die. And it's like, well, I think it'll be more like along the lines of, and I'd love to hear your take, is like it'll still be there for quite a while, and it's still the official, especially now, but even over the next years, as crypto becomes more of a mass adopted, bigger thing, US dollar will be there, but maybe it'll just be like less and less. It'll kind of like fade in importance, less and less use compared to where like crypto starts slowly taking over, little by little. Not in any official sense, but just like as more stores just like or merchants just start accepting more and more crypto and people just see the validity or the ease of use and the way it holds its value better than the dollar or other fiat currencies that I don't know. That's kind of how I see it. I don't know. Does that make sense to you? I don't know how you
yeah.
feel.
So if you think about like email, right? People still send letters, but it's like mainly old grandmas and like people
Yeah,
that if they don't if it's not an old grandma, it's like a hipster that wants to like write with his like special ink feather pen or
right.
something,
Like
you
a
know what I
$200
mean?
pen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's not like old technologies completely die away, but they die away like 90%. Right?
Yeah, that's a good, yeah. It's a
So
good.
I think like that's going to be a lot with how it is with crypto is yeah, people will probably still use paper money. I mean, there's still people out there that some crazy people that transact with like silver coins and stuff, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so there is like there's always going to be the technologies are going to have somewhat of a use case left. But when there's a tipping point, and when about 20 to 30% of market share starts to use something, a lot of times it will tip over to where all of a sudden now it's 40%, now it's 50%, now it's 60%. And then it's like, okay, well, the demand for that thing isn't going anywhere. You know, like the demand for the internet isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon unless we have
Right,
nuclear fallout or something, right?
right, right. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
that's kind of how I view crypto. And as far as like, yeah, the US dollar, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, is that it will just slowly kind of still be used, but fiat money will kind of fade away in terms of importance.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, cool. So you do kind of like resonate with that.
yes, I do.
But now let's take a
Okay.
little bit of a detour
All
and
right.
Yeah, just talking about general, let's say like business success, motivation.
Okay.
You're an amazing entrepreneur, and
Well, thank you.
in your recent interview with Black Raven Meditation, you said after originally working on your YouTube channel for a year with around 300 subscribers to show for it, it felt like it would never grow bigger. But you hit a breaking point, and then you started just picking up traction, and it snowballed, and you said you went all in.
Yes.
So okay. All right. Glad I got that correct. If you can, I want to just unpack that a little bit because that was really interesting, and I just kind of want to hear a little more, and maybe that would also help our viewers kind of understand like how you took it from like, struggling to being discouraged, going really making really, really slow progress to like finally just kind of breaking through and seeing the success of like where you are now. So first of all, on that note, could you define what all in means? And does that mean, like, for instance, you quit working outside jobs and just had, full time, roughly 40 hours a week on your channel, or is it something else?
Yeah, so yeah, basically I didn't work for anybody else. It just became, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Now, if somebody has a normal job, I don't recommend if they need their income, I don't recommend just like completely stopping what you're doing, like doing to go all in on something like that. Because
Okay.
generally speaking, it's a lot better to have a transitional phase where you have something already going for you, like a source of income, and you use it to transition into a different source of income. In my specific case, like it was essentially necessary for me to go all in on it because I had lost my previous source of income. And so I
Okay.
figured, okay, I just, this is what I need to do. Like I need to go all in on this instead. So I did go all in on it, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. And yeah, I it became my primary focus of all my mental capacities. And I wouldn't say I was like straight working like crazy, crazy hours on it, but I'd work a consistent amount of time every single day on it. And I firmly believe in going all in on stuff. And sometimes that does require a transitional phase. But I do believe that you can get the most progress if you're going all in on things. And a lot of times people spread themselves too thin. They have a lot of good ideas, and especially if you're a person that likes to have vision, like you're kind of a visionary person, then a lot of times people that are more visionary in the way that they look at their lives and the way they look at the world, a lot of times they'll get like a lot of ideas, and if they try to do like seven at once, they don't really make a lot of progress.
Yeah. Welcome to my life.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really common thing, right? So if you can cut out certain things and just
Mhm.
only have like one main thing, maybe two if you have to transition, right? Like if you have one that's making you income and then you have another one that you want to focus on, maybe two so that you can transition from the one into the other one. But eventually you want to be just on the one because if you can focus on that one thing, think how much progress you'll be able to make every single day versus if you're spread super thin on a bunch of other things and you're making like this much progress on each thing, maybe, you know? So like having all in on one thing really works well. And and then also additionally to that, like
Okay.
the whole progress you brought up, like that I only had 300 subscribers the first year. You know, I think sometimes you have to build momentum. And for me, the most momentum started getting built when I was uploading every day, which is when I went all in on it. I started uploading like 5 days a week. And that's when I really started to build the momentum. But there for a year, I was uploading once a week and it got me 300 subscribers. And I had some momentum there to work with. But
Mm,
until I went all in, the momentum really started to snowball. So it's physics. I mean, if you look at business, it's really the laws of physics almost apply to the laws of business just in the same way. You have to build momentum, you need to have focus and have a single point of focus so you can build that momentum effectively. And you're basically working with natural law in order to create that success just in the same way that somebody would calculate a physics equation. And so it's kind of cool. And
Yeah.
And the more that you are able to focus on that one thing, the more progress you're going to be able to make.
Wow. Yeah, you're just blowing my mind. Question after question here. Like I've never heard like kind of like, business success, entrepreneurship in the same breath as physics, and but that makes perfect sense though. Like because I guess these principal kind of laws apply to more than one aspect of our lives. Very
Yep.
cool. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, so let's say someone, so in a sense, from what I get from you is like it was maybe a blessing in disguise, although at the time I'm sure you didn't see it that way, that you didn't have any other source of income. So you're like, okay, I have to do this. It's, what's the word? Like do or die, right? Do or die. But let's say someone is in a little bit of a more comfortable position and they do have, either a part-time or full-time income, so they don't necessarily have to go all in, right? So they don't have that like push, that tailwind behind them, but they still do want to. They have the passion for whatever their side project, whether it's a YouTube channel, whatever it is, they want to succeed, but they know that they don't have to. Therefore, like maybe their progress just I guess what I'm asking is, what would you say to those kind of someone in that situation? What would your advice be?
So, first of all, life generally has a way of like putting a little bit of a fire under you. Like
Yeah.
a lot of times like people get comfortable and being comfortable is the worst place you can be in. And a lot of times life has a way of like putting a little fire under you so that you kind of get out of that, right?
Oh
But
yeah.
if you are in a comfort zone and you feel like, okay, well, how am I going to motivate myself? I would say motivation is kind of an illusion. The real truth is discipline, right? So if you want to achieve results in your life, a lot of people are looking for a source of motivation, and a lot of times they think it's like an exterior thing, like, oh, if I drink enough Red Bulls, I'll be motivated, or, if I have somebody in my life that's really pushing me, I'll be motivated. But no, really, discipline is the way that you achieve success, and discipline comes from inside of yourself. That's something you internally cultivate by choosing your thoughts and choosing your actions. And discipline works through highs and lows. Even on the days where you don't want to, your discipline takes over and your discipline becomes the driving force. So just self-discipline, a lot of times people don't talk about that in today's world because everybody wants like a quick fix and
Right.
something outside to help them. But I would say internally you can develop and cultivate that discipline, and it's going to be way more powerful than any exterior motivator, which might work for a certain period of time, but it's not going to last.
And I find in to that, like a lot of, including myself, but especially, friends, family, like they just were so addicted as a society as a whole, right? Addicted to their TikTok, Instagram, whenever you have a free, 2 minutes or you're going number two on the bathroom and you go like, all right, I'm gonna pull out my phone and gonna check my whatever. It's always that quick dopamine hit. Do you Yeah, do you like schedule like social media breaks, or yeah, how do you manage that?
You got to rewire your brain, right? And the best way to do that I found is through meditation, just daily meditation, even 15 minutes. Your desires start to change where you're like, "Oh, well this thing feels abhorrent to me." Like it doesn't resonate with you anymore where you're like, "Okay, well maybe I used to sit and scroll on TikTok or maybe I used to watch like a bunch of YouTube videos." Now you're like, "Well, this thing seems like it doesn't fulfill me in the same way that it used to, because honestly, it never did fulfill you. You're just running from yourself. So if you kind of find yourself and begin to know yourself a little bit, and meditation is a really good way to do that, you will actually rewire your brain. It's called neuroplasticity, and you'll start to make new neural circuits, and
Mm,
those new pathways in your brain that you're rewiring will become more attractive than the old ones. And so the old habits will start to fall away over time, over a long period of time, and the new ones will start to become more attractive to you. And in doing that, you're actually literally rewiring your brain. And
mhm.
that's what a lot of really successful people do. You'll find that a lot of highly successful people that are doing things that, normal people are like, whoa, this person almost seems like an alien or something. Like, how do they do this?
Yeah.
They've just changed their thoughts. And they've changed their thoughts through changing their brain chemistry. And they've done that probably through meditation or, some people unconsciously meditate. They choose to be disciplined and they get in that flow state that comes as a result of discipline. Like, and then that discipline creates meditation, even if they're not aware of it, because flow is a form of meditation, right? So you just have to fall in love with delayed gratification. And I do tell people that 15 minutes of meditation every day is a really good way to rewire your brain. It's helped me a lot. So,
Okay. Okay, great. I feel like I'm getting a truly like I'm getting a TED talk here. This is amazing. Seriously, no. Like, you are really, yeah, you're really wise beyond your years. Let me ask you, um, yeah, no, again, I wasn't planning on this, but since you bring up meditation, along with crypto and a lot of other stuff nowadays, like it's almost one of those analysis paralysis things. Like, okay, oh, I've heard meditation is good, and I feel like I should do it, but like you see, a billion influencers and YouTube videos and all kinds of resources out there and courses to meditate. And how would you recommend someone get started with meditation?
I'd say don't try. Just like sit down, set a timer. You can start with 5 minutes at the start, but don't try. Like just sit.
Okay.
Just sit. There's this concept called Zazen and there's a like a branch of Buddhism called and it's called Zazen and it literally means just sitting. So instead of like trying to obtain a result out of your meditation or like even trying to control your thoughts or trying to like do anything, you just set a timer and you just sit for 5 minutes at the start and then maybe 15 minutes later. And then you just do that every day and it will compound and you will start to get the results, but don't seek the results and don't try to seek anything, just sit down basically.
You,
And generally speaking, they'll over time you'll start to feel this stillness inside of you, and that stillness will grow, and then you'll start to feel an inward drive and an inward motivation or
okay,
discipline, right?
I like that. All right, so yeah, we got a few more minutes here. Let's start with going back to your boring, I call them boring dad coins in a kind of semi-sarcastic way because I don't think they're boring. But a lot of people, especially newer investors, like coins you focus on, like the XRPs, Doge, Bitcoin Cash, even Theta, those have kind of been around for many, many cycles, although XRP is kind of the exception to that. But most of those have been just super, haven't done anything, super dead. Just nothing special, let's say, over the last few months, especially, not like the meme coin cycle we had in 2024, and then some of
Right,
the other kind of newer, flashy, sexy coins like Ondo or Sui or sexy poop meme coin number 897. Um,
right.
so yeah, like what I'm getting at is what would you say, kind of just as a, I'm being the devil's advocate of say, oh, come on, Doge is old news. It already peaked a few years back. Now it's under 15 cents. I mean, Bitcoin Cash, like, man, it hasn't even got halfway to its all-time high since 2021. Like,
Right.
what would you say to those people?
I would say volume, there's a lot of volume on those coins even to this day. And then I'd also say big institutions like Bitcoin Cash is being accumulated by big institutions. You can go look on the stock market and find like the different institutions. There's like BlackRock and there's Grayscale and there's different big institutions, right? They're accumulating those coins. They have a reason for it. They're not putting billions of dollars into something for no reason. And then also the accumulation cycle. These things can accumulate if you go look at like old, wheat, for example, wheat futures, or you go look at old gold cycles or silver cycles, they can go sideways for like really long periods of time. And then they start these massive bull markets that come afterwards. So for me, I think there's a lot of infrastructure on those coins. They're already established, and there's a lot of institutional money behind them and volume. And so even though people might not seem that they aren't as attractive now to a lot of people, sometimes, those things that people are kind of laid aside and think, oh, that's not cool anymore, a lot of times are getting ready for really big things. And, if you look at Amazon or Apple, even Apple, early day Apple computers, it went sideways for like forever, like 20 or 30 years. And then it started this massive bull market and became the biggest publicly
Right.
traded company in the world. And so a lot of times, if you follow the money, if you pay attention to what the big institutions are looking at and what has the infrastructure and what has the foundation for a big bull market, you're going to make money. But don't be afraid to buy stuff like SUI or SEI or even a meme coin, as long as you're not, being too crazy about it. I've personally been too crazy on a meme coin or two myself.
Yeah,
So you have to be careful.
I've been there.
Um, so don't be afraid to buy new coins. There's a lot of opportunity in new coins and sometimes newer companies or newer coins in the case of crypto can have massive bull markets and really take off, and it's okay to do that, but also don't be afraid to buy something that has the institutional money behind it, that has the trading volume, and that has the massive accumulation pattern, which is really what I look for, is the volume and the accumulation pattern mainly.
Hmm.
And don't be afraid to buy that, because those things have potential to really take off. So,
Okay, so kind of what you're saying is have a diversified portfolio.
yes.
Okay. All right. Yes, I agree with that. And as far as portfolio management, maybe you can make a comment on this or portfolio balance. It really depends. There's not like a one size fits all solution because I'm sure this is also a question you get asked a lot, especially by like, newer investors like, oh, which one should I buy? Or I got, X amount, 1,000 or 10,000, whatever the number is, dollars to invest. Which ones do I buy? Like it's always such a, like a loaded question, right?
Yeah, so okay, so with portfolio management, I'd say don't get too many, although you should be like somewhat diversified. Don't be the guy that has like 30 coins or 40 coins, or you're
Yeah.
really it's just too hard to keep track of that, and you're spread too thin, and most likely you're gonna run into problems by over investing like that. So I would say, like, for a lot of people, especially if you're new, make like maybe 3 to 5 coins. And yeah, pay attention to trading volume and market cap. Like, if you don't want to risk a lot, then go buy XRP. Go
Mhm.
buy Dogecoin. Go buy Litecoin. Like, go buy these coins that are in massive multi-year accumulation cycles that have billions of dollars in trading volume, because they do, and focus on those ones and maybe get 3 to 5 coins, you know,
Yeah.
and you're going to do good this cycle and you're going to make a lot of money. And when I say this cycle, I'm talking mass adoption, right? I'm not talking in the next year we're just going to magically top out and everything's going to be done. I don't buy into that. I personally believe we are headed into mass adoption. So be thinking over the next few years, you know.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right, so we've already gone quite a while. We're going to wrap things up here. Just a couple last quick things before we go. I think the most important question that we're all dying to know, Dallin, is if you were a meme coin, what would your name be?
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is a tricky question.
This
What
is
would
the
my name
hardest of
be?
all, the
Yeah,
most difficult question.
if I was a meme coin.
Yes, yes.
Um,
There's no
uh,
wrong answer.
yeah, I know. Yeah. So you know, I would probably be called like a deep sea creature, like a squid, like squid coin, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I've always liked deep sea creatures, so I'd probably go with squid coin.
Hey, you know what? You launch Squid Coin and I will be one of your first investors. How about that?
Perfect. Yeah, we'll pump it to millions in market
Yeah,
cap and then
man.
rug pull on everyone. No, I'm
I
just
I
kidding.
I like where you're going
I'm
with
just
this.
kidding.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So
No rug pulls, people. No more screwing all your investors,
so
okay?
we're only going to rug pull after we've made 1 million.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not before.
that's
So
right.
no. Yeah. All right. No. Okay. So all right. Like I said, we're wrapping things up here. Like we could keep talking all day, but so many more things I would like to ask you. Maybe we'll do a part two at some point. But for now, are there any closing words of wisdom you'd like to share? And yeah, just final thoughts. Yeah, go ahead. Take
Yeah,
it away.
you guys, you've got this. Like trading and investing, you guys don't have to go through the same process that I went through over the last 9 years of like making the same mistakes I've made and then making the same profits and like all the ups and downs and stuff that I've gone through. Like you can learn how to do this a lot easier than what a lot of people think. And you just have to have a simple trading strategy. Focus on, how we were talking about not going all in on, or I mean, not going spreading yourself too thin on too many
Right.
different business ideas and stuff. It's also true for your technical analysis. Like just learn Elliott wave principle, learn Fibonacci, learn the market cycle, and like learn those three things really good. And if you simplify it and you just focus on those three things, they're not that hard. You could teach those things to a kid, really. And if you get those things down to where you're really confident in them and you focus on trading those coins that have bigger amounts of volume where there's some establishment behind them and a little bit of foundation, then you guys can make really good money doing this. And it doesn't have to be hard. Just focus on the bigger picture and focus on a few things about technical analysis. And you guys have got this. Like you can make good money in these markets. So,
All right. All right. Love it. And yeah, so just again, so we're wrapping things up, but let's say someone's watched this, they can see your wisdom, your yeah, all your awesome experience and advice that you've given just through this short interview. And now they like the vibe. They want to learn more. They want to take their trading to the next level. Maybe you could just give a quick, and this is how we'll end it, right? We'll give a quick rundown of like what your VIP service looks like. And of course, we're going to list all the links. Like you have a free Discord where you help people, and your YouTube channel and Twitter, etc. We'll put all those links in the description of this video. Yeah, so maybe we'll just end on what does the VIP thing look like?
yeah, so it's basically a community of other traders and investors, myself included, where you can follow signals and you can, talk with other people in the community and really learn how to make money in these markets because it can be kind of hard, daunting to know what to buy, when to sell it. And a lot of times if you're new to trading and investing, it can be a little bit scary, like where to put your money and
Right.
maybe you've made money and lost money and you've experienced like a lot of ups and downs. So the VIP really kind of helps people just start making money right away and have a community of people to hang out with and talk to. So that's kind of what a lifetime VIP is. And yeah, like I said, go follow my YouTube channel, High Altitude Investing, and my X account, High Altitude INV, and there's a lot of free content on there as well for people that just want to start learning with the basics.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dallin. Really, really enjoyed this. Hope you did too, and hope to talk again soon. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. I appreciate it. And everybody, stay profitable out there.